click is ETG. Eat the goose. Eat the goose. Yeah,
Introducing the 2 racks a week challenge.
Don't shoot. Which I need some proof. Just watch my videos, man.
Video and it,
2 racks
you
a
just
week.
showing all your 2,500. I said, okay. All right, that's we get with that.
68 hours, so it was $2,075.60.
I work like 70, I don't remember, like 73, 74 hours. I made like 3,400, close to 3,500.
I made $2,001.
62 hours, and I had 2,400.
Introducing the 2 racks a week challenge. Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have another winner of the 2 racks a week challenge. But this is gonna be something totally different. It's a little bit of a different spin. Here we have Justin Gamble. Justin Gamble is a wedding videographer in the Cleveland area, Cuyahoga Falls to be exact, correct? Yeah, so he's a filmmaker, and he actually knows my younger brother, so they work together. You know, they do business, they make excellent films. And if you've seen the intro of this video, you've probably seen some of their work, so pretty good. So no, he does not drive Uber and Lyft. So I'm actually trying to expand beyond driving Uber and Lyft because anybody can make $2,000 a week, or AKA 2 racks a week. So that's the ultimate journey. The ultimate vision is to expand beyond driving Uber and Lyft into entrepreneurship. And we have a good guy right here. So Justin, give him a short background about yourself. How long you've been doing video or photography, and what got you into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, man, I've been doing photography now for about 11 years. I started like back in high school and just like fell in love with it, and really couldn't like see myself doing anything different. Like I thought I was going to go to school and be not a personal trainer, an athletic trainer. I wanted to go and get in and like work with athletes, and I took like one anatomy class, and I like realized very quickly that it was not for me. Like, it wasn't going to work. So photography was something I was really passionate and interested about at the time, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I want to go. My parents wanted me to go to school, and I was like, well, I don't want to go to school for something I'm going to hate, so I want to go to school for photography. And they weren't super excited about that. Mm-hmm. They were worried, you know, the like starving artist mentality, right? Like they didn't want me to like come out of school and not have a degree that I could use for something. But I always knew that it was something I was passionate about and something that I really wanted to, you know, I could see myself doing. Like I didn't want to look at what I was doing for work as like hate what I do every morning when I get up. Like I wanted there to be that level of interest that I just, you know, would have that drive and motivation to push forward with it. Photography was the only real way that I saw myself getting to that point. So went to school for that, and I've been doing it now full time for like better part of 6 years, and been working for myself full time 3 years now. And I guess like the entrepreneurship part of it, like that really started when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I would like gather up like kids in the neighborhood and like post them up on different parts of like different streets and have them selling like sodas and lemonade, or like one year we like got a whole bunch of like big rocks and like painted stuff on them, and I just post kids up at different parts of the neighborhood and have them sell rocks, and then I divide it out afterwards and give out, you know, okay, you get this much, you get this much, what they sold. And so like I've always had this like entrepreneurship mindset of like I knew that I wasn't going to be happy unless I was doing it for me. Like I didn't want to be doing work for somebody else. Like I wanted it to be all on me. And that's like, in my opinion, the best part about entrepreneurship is the freedom you get by you're what you make's up to you. Somebody's not telling you what your worth is. Like your hours are up to you. You don't want to work one day, like you don't have to, because you set that up. So that's why I always wanted to do it. And photography was just the path for me that allowed me to get there. Right.
Yeah, man. And that's a lot to unpack there. You said some like interesting points. And definitely as far as, you know, working for yourself, and when you don't want to work, you don't have to work. And so it's kind of similar, you know, to driving, you know, Uber and Lyft. because a lot of people, they get into it for the autonomy, you know, the flexibility,
Right.
creating their own hours, and just being on their own time. And I think, man, that's one of the most valuable things about, you know, working for yourself and, you know, being an entrepreneur. Talk about, like, I guess, like getting started, because for most people, starting their journey is like the hardest thing. You know, they have like a lot of fears, a lot of limited beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, maybe their parents or their family don't encourage them to go after what they truly, you know, desire. Yeah, how was that for you as far as like, did your family support you, and like, was it challenging for you to get started?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that, because it is like a lot of times it's the people closest to you who don't want to see you make that leap and go for it, because I think a lot of times people they look at having a full-time job or working for somebody as that job security. When you go off on your own, you don't have that. It's all on you. But like the only person I've really ever felt like I'm able to count on all the time is myself. Like it's, if I go to work for somebody else, like it's up to them if I'm getting paid that week. Like it's up to them if I have a future in the company. Like this is up to me. I get to decide this part of it. So my family, like, they were supportive of it, but my dad told me, like, early on, like, when I told him I wanted to go to school for photography, he's like, you have to make this work. You can't, like, this isn't going to be a hobby for you. If we're going to school for this, like, you have to find a way to turn this into a full-time job and a career path for yourself. And I just said, like, that was, you know, first couple of years in college, like, I kind of took it easy, I'd say. But, like, when I got to getting close to graduating, I was like, I got to buckle down and start doing some things that are going to help me progress in this. And funny enough, like, coming out of school, like, I thought it, like, oh, I got a degree now, like, people are going to pay me, people are going to hire me, like, I'm a photographer now. And that wasn't the case. Like, I came out of school and my inbox was empty. Like, there was nobody hiring me for anything at that point. So it was like a rude awakening. I was like, okay, well, I got this piece of paper that says I'm a photographer now, but ultimately it didn't matter unless I put the work in to get to that point. So
let me pause right there, since we talk about the work, man. And you know, once you got the degree, you had absolutely nobody interested in hiring you. So how did you go about getting your first clients? Like, how hard did you have to work?
Yeah, man. I mean, the first 3 years was like, I had a job when I got out of school. I got a job at a portrait studio, and I was working as a photographer, an editor, a retoucher. I was doing all the things I wanted to be doing, but again, I was doing it for somebody else, and that limited me, because I couldn't build, like, I felt like there was nowhere to grow within the company I was at. I was just going to be doing the same thing I was doing. And I looked at it, I'm like, I could do all of this. Like, what we're doing here, I could handle all of that. You know, it'd be a smaller scale, but I also knew, like, it wasn't smart for me to just leave, because I didn't have that built up yet. So first 2-3 years, I spent, like, trying to build that. And so what I started doing was, like, for photography at least, I started, like, collaborating with people regularly. Like, I made it a goal to do at least one photo shoot a week with somebody. I like try to network through that. And then I started hosting networking events, which is where I met Ryan. And, you know, we would do these networking events for creatives. And, like, my whole thought was, I need to solidify myself as somebody who's serious about this. Like, somebody who, like, I had to take on additional leadership. I kind of look at it as, because there's so many people doing this. You know, I'm sure that's the same with driving too. Like, there's so many people doing this. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you step up? How do you, you know, really build something that's lucrative and at the same time is going to support yourself? And so it was a journey to get there. And, like, ultimately I never saw myself doing, like, wedding films or wedding photography out, but it was the avenue that allowed me to get to the point where I could go full time for myself. Like, it just was, there's money in it. I felt like I had a competitive advantage in it, having a degree and having a solid understanding of, like, using lighting in different environments and things. And so I could build off of that and then build it into something bigger. So now I'm not only just doing wedding videos and wedding films. I actually just started with wedding photos. Then I had a lot of people asking about, do you do videography? So I said, yeah, I do videography. I'd never done a wedding video before. But I said, yeah, I can do it. So I just started offering it, and then that started building up. And then, you know, at the same time I was building the commercial side of my business, and I was working with companies, and I was doing headshots for people. I was doing small scale video productions for businesses, and just trying to build that up to diversify too, because I didn't want all my income to be in weddings, because it's seasonal. Like especially here in Ohio, we got weddings from like April, May-ish till about October, November-ish, and then outside of that, you go all winter, and there's not a whole lot of weddings to go around.
Right.
So I had to find ways to supplement that income in the off seasons to make sure that I still had, money coming in, but it wasn't going to be from weddings. So I had to find some other ways to do it.
Right. Man, I respect you a lot because, a lot of people, they have this mentality where they expect things to come easy for them. But, you understood, like, all right, if I got to make this work, I got to put some damn work in, man. So talk about, how much work, like how many hours were you working, how many emails or how many calls were you making to try to reach out to people to build, relationships, man?
Well, relationships is huge. And I still am a big proponent of that because it's kind of cliche. Like when people say like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like I think there's a balance between those two things, but who you know definitely helps. Like one of my biggest commercial clients I have right now, I made through a connection with somebody that I worked with briefly at an internship. And they were leaving this company and they were like, hey, they need a video guy. And now they're hitting me up every time they need a video job now. And it's recurring stuff through that. So the networking's huge. That's why I wanted, hosting those networking events. I got to know so many people in the area, and just today I got an inquiry from some guy I met through doing those networking events, and he's doing he's got a big project coming up with Adidas, and they need a photo booth at it. And I bought a photo booth. I do photo booths now too. So for the past 2 years, I've been doing that. And so, these just relationships lead into new business.
Yeah,
it's important to stay on top of that, whether it's on social media or just maintaining those relationships with grabbing a coffee, getting lunch, whatever, texting, hey, how's it going? What's your season looking like this year? How are you holding up? And just, being a genuine person in that too, because people see through it if you're fake about it. You got to commit to who you are and what your personality and how you want your business to operate, and people ultimately will respect that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Being on time, I'll say being a man of your word, man. Because it's hard really trying to, develop business with people. Like you'll reach out, you'll make plans, and a lot of times people, they don't follow up on the things that they say they're going to do.
And especially in this career path too, photo video. There's a lot video guys are typically very maybe not typically, but I want to say a lot of them are very flaky.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people who are getting into photography, I'm like, there's two main things that I think have allowed me to build my business up and be successful at is consistency and communication. And when you consistently follow through on what you say you're going to do, and if you can't, you communicate what's going to happen instead, or you just maintain that communication and let people know. I get into peak seasons with weddings, and I usually tell people I turn stuff around about 4 to 6 weeks, but sometimes it pushes past that. But as long as I communicate that to the couple, hey, it's going to be more like 7, 8 weeks, they're usually fine with it. But if you just leave them hanging and don't know that, that's when you start getting into issues with it.
Yeah, absolutely right, man. And it's funny that you mentioned, consistency, because I was pretty much talking about that on my last stream, man. Because as far as driving, I'm like, man, if you want to make money, you want to learn your market, you have to be consistent at it. It's not going to be all sunshine and roses, man. You got to put some damn work in. Now, and I don't understand why people just want stuff to be easy first and foremost. And it's they just expect to do nothing, do the bare minimum and get the maximum amount of rewards. But unfortunately, life is not, set up that way.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of people feel like it should be, but it's never been that way.
Right.
Nobody ever got successful off being lazy. Anyone who's running a company right now didn't get there because they were lucky. Luck has some part to do with it, sure, but at the same time, they were working harder than anyone else was to get to that position. And you just got to you got to suck that part up and just say, if this is what you want, you got to give it 100% all the time.
Absolutely, I'll say 110, 120%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get to the whole money aspect, on my channel, I'm big on preaching mindset and talk about readapting, because life is about moments of readapting your mindset, because you may be throwing curveballs. I'm gonna do this, then something else may happen. Damn, now what I'm gonna do?
Right.
I'm gonna have to do something differently. Or for instance, I got deactivated from one platform, and I was like, damn, now I got to drive Uber again, and I'm making a killing all over again. So it's just, you never know what may potentially happen. So talk about a few moments from you building your business that you had, small moments of adversity that you had to overcome. How'd you go about, readapting your mindset to overcome that?
Yeah, there's just, when you're working for yourself, and that part of when you don't have someone else to depend on to sign your paycheck, make sure you're taking care of like the things that like when you just work a normal job, you don't have to think about. All that stuff weighs on your mind all the time when you're working for yourself. So it's like, you know, like I said, in those off seasons, the first year where I like went full time for myself, like I wasn't really prepared for that. Like I wasn't really prepared for how low income got in the winter time. I'm thinking, oh, you know, money's still gonna be rolling in, people still getting engaged, and yeah, that happens, but like there's a lot of other factors that I didn't consider, like just the fact that there's the holidays going on. Like people aren't thinking about like booking photographers around the holidays when they're traveling, they're going to see family, friends, cooking dinners, what, like it's not on their mind. So that was one that I just had to like adapt to, and I'm still adapting to. Like I've got ideas and things that I want to implement to make it even like make the off season even more lucrative for myself, because I got to look at what I have as an advantage over other people. Like I have this studio space. Not every photographer has that. So how do I put this space to work for me to make sure that in those off seasons I'm not hurting as much and I don't have to worry about it. And also just the diversifying of things too. Like now I'm not just doing photo, I do video. I got the photo booth. Like there's other opportunities that come up by offering these different things. And that allows me to, you know, shift where I want to focus and where I want new business to come from. So I can give that stuff more time in the winter and focus on building up different avenues, because I think you know, one of the most important things in business is being able to diversify too. Because if you get too dependent on one aspect of your business, what happens if that goes away? Like then you're back to square one again. And it's important to have other things going on at the same time, whether it's like using your money wisely and investing it into stocks or, you know, opportunities that come your way, or just finding ways that you can, you know, build off of what you're already doing. Now, I don't know what that looks like as a driver, but you know, that's where the creativity aspect comes in being an entrepreneur. You got to find those ways to build off that.
Yep, man, I was just about to say, man, I'm just listening to you. And I'm like, I can tell he thinks a lot. You think about a lot of, yeah, I can tell, man, because I'm like the same way. So, okay, what can I do better? How can I add more value? How can I be creative? And I'm just sitting there listening. Oh yeah, he definitely thinks about, you know, new ways to make money, new ways to add value, new ways to, you know, create offers.
Well, and it's funny too, because like just as a like I'm never driven for like to make money, but I like I've been in Ubers and Lyfts and different like rides that you can tell when the people really care about what they're doing, because they go the extra mile in that, right? Like I've seen some people put up iPads on the backs of their screens and they can like they're playing music videos, or they're or like they got the little kits where there's, you know, I don't know, floss, mouthwash, mints, whatever, like other things. They got, one guy had like water bottles for all the people who got in the car, and I'm like, that's the stuff that makes you stand out as a driver. Like I remember those rides. I've had 50 rides with people I couldn't tell you their name, I couldn't tell you like, you know, what they did, if they did anything outside of that, because they just sit up there and drive. And that, you know, if you can make that work, cool. But like, I imagine if you can differentiate yourself, like I also know some people who have driven and then they end up just becoming private drivers for people because they have such a good experience with them. It's like, man, if you just get all your business from one guy or, you know, a couple of people, like who needs the apps? You just get to pocket all that.
Yeah, man. No, I say like you have to think and be creative. I mean, if you just sit in the car, or maybe like just in general, if you're not thinking how you can add value, how you can become better, and like personal development as far as working on yourself, it's like you always gonna be like stationary to some degree, because you really not putting the time in to develop yourself, man. So
yeah, and I mean, I'll pay you a little compliment here too, because I think it's, you know, I did, maybe there's, I'm finding out there's like areas of influence on social media that I didn't know existed. Like for instance, my girlfriend works in for a tool manufacturer, and they do a lot of stuff with trades. And like when they'll do events every year where they bring in you know, influencers from the plumbing community. I'm like, I didn't know that existed, but like that has to exist if you think about it. Like every community is going to have that. And at the same time, you know, like, you know, the compliment to you is like seeing that, okay, there's an opportunity for drivers here. Like you know, I'm doing really well at this. How do I pass this along to other people? And then at the same time, you get a benefit out of that too, whether it's through merch sales, it's through ad sales on YouTube or whatever it is. Like, but it's that consistency to that aspect of it too. Because not only are you driving 60 plus hours probably in a week, but you got to go home and then make the content to get it out there too. And so it is like a job that, you know, it doesn't ever really end, but when you work for yourself, like you are kind of on the clock 24/7.
Yeah.
You don't get a chance to step back and relax. Otherwise things stop.
Yeah, 100% right, man. And I know you feel like that. That's why you are able to, to preach upon that. So, I appreciate those words, and I appreciate, you recognizing like the work and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So now, man, let's switch it over to like the money aspect.
Okay.
How was your very first year of business?
So my first year where I started my business and started taking it seriously, because I've been doing shoots, like getting paid for them since I was like 17, 18 years old, but it was, a few $100 here or there, like not consistent. So the first year I really got serious with it, got my LLC, and then really buckled down. I did $27,000, and that was over the course of about probably 8 or 9 months, because I didn't start up right at the beginning of the year. I was transitioning jobs. I was trying to figure out how I was going to make this work, and so the first couple months I was still in and out of work with that. So that first year was only about $27,000, but after I got a system in place and figured out how I wanted it to look, how I wanted my marketing to go, it built up from there.
Okay, nice, man. 27,000 your first year, not too shabby. So since this the 2 racks a week challenge, do you remember like the very first time, that you made $2,000 in a week off a package or off a client?
Yeah, man. I mean, the first time, the part that really sucked when I went full time for myself is I had been working for that studio for better part of 3 years, like a little over 2 years, or a little over 2.5 years, and I had shot, I don't know, probably 50, maybe 60 weddings at this point for this company, but because I was an employee of them, I didn't own any of the images I took. So I had a ton of experience. I knew I could do it better than most people who are out there doing it, but I had nothing to show for it. So I had to start from scratch with it. So that's why that first year was so hard. Like I gave away the first 2 weddings I booked for free. I take that back, not the first 2, but early on in that season, I gave away 2 weddings for free to get a bunch of leads in the door. So I knew I had people who were interested. Then I could market to those people and get people to book. Out of just giving away those 2 weddings, of the people who applied to get those weddings for free, I think I booked 4 of them before I even gave the other 2 away. So I booked 4 weddings there, and then I got the other 2 for free. So now I'm rolling, right? But I still knew I needed more content, so I started planning my own styled shoots. And working to just get more out there to show like, hey, I can do this. This is what you could have. And so yeah, once I started doing that, because I didn't have a client list, I had to start my pricing really low. So I thought it was great. I get people booking, and I'm making $700-800 or something off of these bookings. But I get a couple of those a month. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I'm getting some real money, and after not, maybe getting $300 or $400 a month previous to that. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to cook now. Yeah. But ultimately, like once I got the price bump to where I was, dude, it feels that much better because you're covered.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was more like, then I had money to build with too. So if I wanted to do more advertising, if I wanted to go do a wedding show and show up and like try to sell to people, like I had the ability to do that. I could upgrade my studio, I could upgrade my equipment, I could do all the things that I wanted to do to start catering to a higher end client and ultimately keep making more off of that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it felt, I mean, don't get me wrong, like even when I was making $700 off of a wedding book, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, I'll take that. And I'm still working another job at this point too. But then when I started, like, when I had a first month where I'm like making $6,000, like $5-6 off of bookings, I'm like, I could do this now. Like, I could transition here, and I'm making more money off the side hustle than I am off of like what I was doing full time. So I'm like, I'd rather do that. Like, if I could give that another 20 hours a week, do you know how much more money I could be making in those 20 hours than I would be going to this job that I'm making, an hourly rate at?
Right.
And so yeah, it was, that was a big motivation for me to like really step it up and get to another level with it and really build off that.
Absolutely. And it's funny because even though it's like different industries as far as like the people I'm used to interviewing who are leaving jobs to start driving, it's pretty much the exact same story. It's so many similarities. Like people working, let's say a job, they was probably getting like $1,200 bi-weekly or $600 weekly. Then they start driving and like, oh man, like now I can make $1,500 plus, man. And like they leave it and now they drive and work for themselves and having a good time, man. So that's great.
Yeah.
So how was business in 2023? Because I know you sent me that screenshot. I don't know if you want me to talk about the numbers.
Honestly,
I'll let you talk about the numbers. How's business in 2023?
I think it should be. I wish more photographers talked about it.
Oh
Honestly.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of those things where people don't want to talk. Like people don't want to share rates. People don't want to talk about what.
Yeah, share it all.
At the same time, it's like I mean, I look at it as like, I'm not sharing this to brag. I'm sharing it to show you like, this is what you could be doing. Like, it's because there's so many photographers out here doing $150 sessions, right? And it's like, well, how many $150 sessions are you going to do in a year? You can't live off of that. Like, you got to up that. You got to make more. So like, yeah, so this year, like, you know, the next year after I went that $27,000 year, the next year I broke 100K. And that felt awesome because my goal was to break 100K and I was at like 117 or something like that. And I'm
2 racks a week.
that. The next year I was like, I want to hit 175K. And so the next year I didn't hit that. I hit 130 roughly. And I'm like, okay, where do I see, how do I build this? Where are my opportunities to grow again? And so this comes back to looking at what I'm offering and who I'm catering to and who my current client base is and how do I offer more value? How do I improve that? And ultimately, you know, build that up to that 175K mark. So this year I'm looking to do probably about 220K this year through photography. And that's the part that drives me nuts is because like I know a lot of photographers they're happy with making you know, 30, 40K a year. And like, that's pretty good. That's more than I would have made at my part-time job or whatever I was doing before. And it's like, that's good. If you're content with that, that's fine. I get it. But I wasn't going to be content with that. Like, I want to get to 500,000 a year. You can get there. I know I went to a conference this year and the first photographer I went to see speak, her business is $780,000 last year. and she's got 6 employees. She's a husband, or her husband and her own the company, and they just kill it. And I'm like, so if there's photographers out there doing, you know, $750,000 in sales a year, what can I do to get to half of that? You know, how do I get to 375? Because if they can do it, I can do it. I mean, there's no reason I couldn't do it. I just got to figure out what they do that like separates them. How do they build the business out? How do they cater to their clients? And then not necessarily replicate it, but take what that is and then apply it to what I do and find a way to get there. So, you know, my main thing is like, I just want more people to know, like, you can be doing 6 figures as a photographer and you know, and you shouldn't feel bad about it because traditionally photography has always been a luxury service. Right. You know, if you think back to when cameras were first invented, it was not like, you know, for like, it was the wealthy class that could afford photographers. And then when we get into this digital age, like now cameras are really inexpensive. You can get a camera and say you're a wedding photographer, but you just spent $500 on your camera, and then you go out and charge $1,000 for a wedding. Great. I mean, you make $500 off of that. That's cool. But at the end of the day, like, photography's always been that luxury service. Like, not everybody's been able to afford it. And it's not to say that everybody shouldn't be able to afford it, but there's a marketplace for luxury and people want that. They want an elevated experience. They don't want just you know, a superficial interaction. Here's your photos and go do your thing with it. They want to be catered to. They want, you know, an elevated amount of service that comes with that. And so that's the type of clients that I try to cater to.
Yeah, man, I love that mindset because it is about that. Always wanting more, you know, pushing yourself, challenging yourself, trying to figure out ways to be better and to make more. And that's, you know, pretty much what this whole 2 racks a week challenge, you know, represents, that type of mindset. You know, you putting yourself out there, you learning, you growing. Like, how can I make more money? Like, what can I do? Like, everything is a challenge, man. And I like the fact that, you know, you try to make $500,000, eventually probably make more than that, man. The more you learn and the more you network. So, you know, that is awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. You just build off of what you know, and once you get it, like once you have that system in place, then the next thing you do elevates you again and again and again. And you can slowly get there, and you know, there's ways of diversifying. Like people, like this particular photographer, like she saw her opportunity. She was really good at post session sales, so she said, "Well, I know how to do this and make a ton of money on it." She's like, "I should just start doing this for other photographers." So she just does sales for other photographers. Supplement that. So she doesn't got to go out and do the shoots. She just takes commission off all these sales, and she's showing some of their sales numbers, and they're doing 30, 40K on just individual sales per year on albums or prints or whatever it is. And they're doing it for other photographers. Now they get a commission back, and that's how she's building their revenue. But it's like, people willing to spend that money. You just got to find those people.
Absolutely. So I know like time is running up, so I'm gonna have just a couple more questions. How much time, or we can say time and money, did you spend on, you know, learning skills outside of just, you know, shooting and editing? And how much money did you invest as far as like seminars or courses? and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, if we just exclude college from it, because I mean, college, I don't like. While I had classes geared towards photography, there's gen eds and stuff like that. So if we just focus past whatever, we know about probably what college degrees cost at a public college, right? So you're talking probably $20K a year roughly for a public college or something around that. We'll just exclude that. So on the other things, like I make a point every year to either one, do a individual session with a photographer who is doing better than I am at what I'm doing, whether it's making more money, they're more experienced, they have a skill set that I don't know and I want to learn. I always make a point to at least invest some money into doing that. What really helped me make that jump to full time was I paid for a mentorship program with a Sony Artisan of Light, which is essentially just a photographer sponsored by Sony. And he was doing mentorship programs, and so I paid for 20 hours of his time. And this is just to go to show how valuable this is. I had 4 meetings with the guy at an hour apiece, and I never had another conversation with him because by the time I got through 4 hours with him, I was rolling. I didn't have to go back and have a conversation. I had the business model down. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how to get the leads in. And so, I spent for 20 hours. I only used 4 of them, but I got enough in those 4 hours to make my investment into those 20 hours worth it. And, and I haven't had to do another one like that since then. But I will sit down, like this past year, I really wanted to focus on how do I sell to clients after their wedding day? Like how do I build albums for couples? How do I get them to spend even more past that while still providing them additional value? And so I did a half-day session with photographers who specialize in that. And I'm like, I want to learn how you do this. Every year I try to go to a photography conference if I can, whether it's local or out of state, and just learn from people, again, like just people who are doing it better than I am, because I know they're out there. I mean, I know there's headshot photographers who are charging $3,000 for a headshot. Well, why am I not making $3,000 a headshot? What's this guy got that I don't got? I want to go learn how he's doing this. And even if I don't make it to $3,000, but if I can get it up to $1,000, like that's a lot better than what I was doing before. It's like it's these incremental differences. And honestly, the best way to learn it is from people who are already doing it, and people are willing to give you that information. You just got to invest a little bit of money and time into them, and they'll give it back to you. You'll get more out of it than they probably do. If you can take a $500 investment and turn it into $5,000, like you did way better than that guy did. You got $500 out of you, but you got $5,000 out of him. So
that's a good way to look at it, because a lot of people they be cheap and I'm not paying this person, it's a scam, or it's like people they're scared to invest in themselves. But it's like, how can you get to the next level if you don't want to spend a couple hundred, a couple $1,000s to get to the next level?
I mean, nobody who's successful is gonna, like, anyone who's successful has a mentor, like, and they'll be straight up about it too. It's like at some point in their life they had somebody giving them that guidance, whether they were older, they were more experienced, they were more successful, whatever it is. But everyone who's in a position of authority, or a CEO or a high executive level, has had somebody give them that guidance to get to that point. Because it's hard. You can figure it out on your own, but would you rather take 3 years to figure it out, or sit down and learn it from somebody in a few hours and then go and run with it, and then in 3 years you're above that?
Right.
What's your time worth? Right. I'd rather spend some time to bypass 3 years, spend some money to skip 3 years and get to where I would be in 3 years trying to figure it out on my own, versus like figuring out, failing a whole bunch of times, getting down on myself, feeling bad about it, and then having nothing to show for it until 3 years from now. So it's time, everything's time and money when it comes to that stuff, but you just got to be willing to shell out a little bit of extra money to save yourself some time.
Exactly.
You get time back. You can always make more money.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how you got to look at it. Like you paying the money to save yourself on a lot of time and mistakes and heartache. It's like, why not bypass all that to, hiring somebody who's already did and made those mistakes, man.
Yeah, exactly. They'll get you there. It's a shortcut. I mean, it costs money, but it's a shortcut.
Exactly. And one last thing, man. Any words of encouragement for people who are looking, to start their own business and be their own boss? What type of characteristics or mindset do they need to have to do it, and also, most importantly, not to quit? Yeah.
I mean, the surest way to fail is to quit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my mindset is like, if you don't stop, if you're passionate about it and you just don't stop, how can you fail?
Yeah.
Like, passion and effort equals success, more or less. I mean, in some capacity. Like now, I may never make $750,000 a year doing my photography business, but if I could, my whole goal is to work for myself and live comfortably and live the lifestyle I want to live. So if I can get to that point, I'm content there.
Yeah.
and I'm still gonna push past that because I always want more. I'm never satisfied. Like now I did 220K this year. Next year that's not gonna be good enough. If I don't hit 220K, I'm gonna look at it as a bad year.
Yeah.
I know what I could do now. So my thing is like, it does get hard. Like you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have bad months. You're gonna, you might even have a bad year. But like that doesn't mean you stop. Because when you stop, that's what I would at this point consider failing is if I decided to stop because something bad happened, because I had a bad year, because I had a bad month, that's where I fail.
Yeah.
Like if you get through that hard part, you're learning, you're growing, you're gonna get past that. So you just can't stop.
Yep, that's why I say like readapting, man, because life is about that. And one last thing, this is all we've been waiting for. I definitely have your 2 racks a week shirt. I want to give you.
Let's
So you
go.
can open it up. Yeah, got your name on. Yeah, open that bad boy
It's
up.
away from the microphone, so it's not as loud. But hey, let's go. 2 racks a week, baby. No, I love this. I mean, I like the mentality, man. I know it's a grind, and I know everybody, it's not for everybody, but it's not made to be for everybody. Like, you want to get 2 racks a week, you got to put the work in.
Absolutely, man. Hold it up to the camera one time and get a 2 racks a week.
2 racks a week.
There we go, man. So I hope y'all enjoyed this interview, man. Something totally different. Hey, you don't have to drive Uber or Lyft to make 2 racks a week. Anybody can make 2 racks a week, whatever they're passionate about, whatever their interest is or industry is in. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, Ronnie Spee, over and out. Mr. 2 racks a week. Holla back. Peace.
Racks a week. Ronnie Spee. Yeah, Ronnie Spee. 60 hours.